All right, good morning, folks. Everything new under the sun. Going to take a look at some prophetic headlines this morning. Some breaking news. More rockets have been fired into Israel, and apparently it's at the command of Iran. Of course, Trump made a big statement about the quote-unquote legal settlements. And we're going to take a look at a number of news articles, but I want to start with Matthew 24. I think it's important. I think we see many of these things coming up, but the end is not yet. And that's really what Matthew 24 says. Starting in verse 4 here, it says, I was going to see if I can zoom in. Let me try a reader mode here and make this more clear. And Jesus answered and said unto them, Take heed that no man deceive you, for many shall come in my name, saying, I am the Christ, and shall deceive many. Here it starts in verse 6, And ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars, see that you are not troubled. For all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. So this is where we are. This is the stage that we're at. Wars, rumors of wars happening in the world. I'll point you at all the protests that are going on. The terrorism. Sweden is dealing with massive terrorism, shootings, etc., because of the population that has immigrated. There are riots in Hong Kong. The students are rioting against the communist government of China. You have riots in Iran because of the price of gas has increased. And so these are wars, these are rumors of wars, these are uprisings, these are civil war. For nation shall rise against nation, kingdom against kingdom, and there shall be famines, pestilences, and earthquakes in diverse places. All these are the beginning of sorrows, it says. Look what happens next, though. And this is the one thing that Christians, I don't think, are ready for. Then they shall deliver you up to be afflicted and shall kill you. Will we get killed in North America for our faith? Well, it's less likely, I think, in North America, but I think we will see a rise in this sort of thing. We will see a rise in persecution. They will hate Christians. They will be, because of their quote-unquote tolerance of all, they will be intolerant of Christians because they believe Christians are intolerant. So, ironically, they will be intolerant of Christians. And then many shall be offended and shall betray one another. I think this gets into the time when you start looking at a world leader and you have to vow allegiance to the world leader and accept this mark of the beast. And if you vow allegiance to this world leader, you will start to betray your friends and family, because your friends and family, just like the Chinese social credit system, if they are not helping your credit go up, your credit score as a civilian, as a public person, then maybe you'll start reporting them to the government to get brownie points for the government for your credit score, etc. This is what's happening in China right now with their credit score system. The government is persuading people, convincing people to go along with party lines, communist party lines, in ways that improve their credit score. And if they have any friends or family that don't like the communist government, well, they're going to stay away from them because they don't want their credit score to go down, because they won't be able to ride trains or other things. There's punitive measures that the government can put upon you if you associate with people who don't agree with the government in China. And I think this is coming, and this is part of the and shall betray one another and shall hate one another. There is no tolerance of the left, of the people on the left. They say they're tolerant, but in fact, they're just the opposite. They're absolutely intolerant. It's the Christians that are very, very tolerant and loving of others. And so when the left accuses you of being something, it's because they fulfill that exactly themselves. So intolerance. Christians are the most tolerant, yet the world calls Christians the least. Many false prophets shall rise and deceive many, and because iniquity shall abound, the love of many will wax cold. Because sin is so great in the land, many will lose the love. They will stop loving. They won't be kind to one another. And so you have a scary world when that happens, when the love of many waxes cold. But he that endures unto the end, the same shall be saved. You have to run the race and finish the race, and we are all going to die once. We are all humans. All humans will die once. And this gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in all the world for a witness unto all nations, and then the end shall come. When the gospel is preached in all the world for a witness to all the nations, then the end comes. And this is what Matthew 24 says. So let's look at a couple of things. The economy. It's continuing downwards. Brace for impact. The U.S. economy is going down, and it's going down hard. This is from November 17th from the economiccollapseblog.com. The writer says, I've had so many bad economic numbers to share with you that I don't even know where to start. I had anticipated the U.S. economic slowdown would accelerate during the fourth quarter of 2019, and that is precisely what happened. It says, the Federal Reserve is trying to do all it can to keep us from officially slipping into recession. So they're printing money out of thin air. There's reports now of Trump that he spoke to the Federal Reserve Chairman about potentially going to negative rates and discussing the idea of it. And they're printing money and they're doing QE. I think it's 4 right now. And now I hear the markets are pricing in QE 5. They expect QE 5 to be coming. Trump and the Federal Reserve are desperately trying to prevent the U.S. from going into recession. And by the way, Iran has been really pushed in to a corner, and I suspect they're going to strike soon when they get real desperate. Their people are protesting. The people of Iran are protesting because the Iranian government had to spike the price of oil and gas 50% because their economy is going down. The government needs money. And so they're hiking tax on fuel. And this is causing, like I say, widespread protests. And the government and the armed forces of Iran, the Revolutionary Guard, are really getting worried about this. And this means that Iran is more likely to strike out against Israel in the face of these economic sanctions by the U.S., which are really, really causing trouble in Iran and causing trouble for the government of Iran with its own civilians who are protesting these fuel spikes. And the article goes on and says, we are really starting to see conditions begin to deteriorate rapidly now, and 2020 is already shaping up to be the most pivotal year. You can't see the text there. The most pivotal year for the U.S. economy since 2008, and I think it's all culminating. I think we're getting very close. We're talking about months. You've heard me talk about this timeline for a couple of years now, and I think things will really start ratcheting up as we head towards the year 2021, which I think is the start of the 7-year tribulation, plus or minus, months, maybe a year. But I think the end of 6,000 years of man is 2028. Come off that 7 years for the 7-year tribulation period. And we have what looks like the buildup and the convergence of all the prophetic lines of things going on. And they're all pointing really to the next number of months, whether it's 6 or 12 months. But things are shaping up to and pointing to all this trouble happening. And one of the key pieces, I believe, one of the key things that kicks off all the prophetic lines is a economic collapse. And so that's why I'm watching the economy. It's going down fast. They're printing money out of thin air. The Federal Reserve is printing money and giving it to the banks like crazy right now. That's why you see the stock market going up. The stock market goes up because they're pumping a whole bunch of free money into the economy, and therefore the banks can loan it out freely, and people feel like there's free money, so they're going to buy more stocks for higher prices because they're not looking for deals anymore on stock prices. They've just been giving free money from the government, and so they can pay, though they're willing to pay whatever, the going rate. And that's why the stock market goes up. When the stock market goes up, that doesn't necessarily mean the economy is doing better. This is a problem. Many Americans remain in precarious financial shape, even as the economy continues to grow, it says, with 7 of 10 saying they struggle at least one aspect of financial stability, such as paying bills or saving money. And it goes on and speaks about the trouble in the economy. Despite stocks soaring to record highs, Bloomberg Consumer Comfort Index fell last week to 58 from 59 a week earlier, and has now plunged 5.4 points in 3 weeks, the biggest drop since 2008, which was other than 1929, one of the biggest market collapses since that 1929 depression. And I think it's going to be worse. They've only kicked the can down the road. The problem is only worse. There is more debt now. Sierra Hedge World Trade Barometer suggests global economy continues to plunge as trade war takes toll. And they have this image here of goods barometer, and it suggests that world trade is going to remain below trend as tensions take toll. Trade war with China, tensions and economic sanctions against Iran, wars, rumors of wars, all this trouble that is continuing. And I think the Federal Reserve is really sheltering and kind of hiding the fact that they're printing money like crazy right now, and started, I believe it was in September, to print money, quantitative easing for the banks, because they were starting to lock up. And they've hid this well. But again, Trump has been speaking to the Federal Reserve just lately, last couple of days, about the prospect of potentially negative rates. And if you've seen my videos before, negative rates are one step along the way to a mark of the beast system. We have to go through negative rates, and then we will switch over to the mark of the beast. And that's part of the timeline. So I expect that to come in shortly. Look at this below trend. You can see the barometer there, and you can see the chart there where it was going up. You can see the first red arrow, that's going down in 2015, 2016, went up in 2017 to 2018, but now we're on the downward trend again for the second red arrow there. So does that stop? Does that go back up? At some point, it's going to correct, and it's going to continue. This one's going to continue down as we head into a global economic collapse. So is the time now? Is the time right? I believe that the prophecies are ready to go. They all have shelf lives, and that's a video I need to do again. But they're not. These things aren't going to wait for months and months. We're not going to have a 3-year boom in the economy. I don't think the timeline allows for that. I think the shelf life is shorter for all the prophecies on the table, such as the 70 shepherds of Israel with the elections going on in Israel. I think the timeline is much shorter than that. So the deceleration of slowing global growth, it says, was attributed to increased tariffs, Brexit-related uncertainty, and the shifting monetary policy stance in developed economies. So, I mean, the article goes on and speaks about various shipping indices, export orders, automotive products, container shipping, air freight, electronic components, raw materials are all going down over time. And so this means that the economy is getting into a bad place. Let's shift over to what Trump said about Israel and what the response was of the rest of the world, and specifically the Arab world and Iran, about this. This is breaking Israel news. Jordan, EU, Bernie Sanders triggered by Trump's acknowledgement of West Bank settlements as legal. So this is a big deal. For a long time, the United States spoke of the West Bank settlements as illegal. And of course, Canada came out and reaffirmed that they believe that the West Bank settlements are illegal. And the U.S. just came out and said, no, we're going to switch our position. These West Bank settlements are now legal under international law. It says Jordan, whose Waqf mercenaries act as custodians in the Temple Mount, slammed Trump's administration's decision to recognize Jewish presence in Judea and Samaria as legal under international law. Says Jordan's foreign minister, and this triggered a bunch of rockets, I think, triggered partly by Iran, but blasted the White House decision, claiming settlements kill the two-state solution. So the whole Arab world, the whole world really is looking for a two-state solution. And this is not what Trump's peace plan is going to present. Apparently, they're not going for a two-state solution. So what is the political side of the peace plan? Well, if you watch my video the other day, they're not going to bring out the peace plan. Kushner's not going to reveal it until there's a strong government, a strong mandated elected government in Israel. And that doesn't look to be happening anytime soon. It says, the most widely accepted blueprint for Middle East peace, i.e. the two-state solution, entrenching the occupation and its injustice, speaking of Israel, and violating the resolutions of international legitimacy will not achieve peace and will not guarantee security and stability. That's kind of true because we know prophetically that there will be significant wars coming. Nothing changes the illegal reality of the settlements that the international community is unanimous in condemning, Safadi added. So this is a big deal. And of course, so Bernie Sanders came out and tweeted about it. Israeli settlements in occupied territory are illegal. This is clear from international law and multiple United Nations resolutions. Once again, Trump is isolating the United States and undermining diplomacy by pandering to his extremist base. So you notice he's talking about half the American population as extremist. It's incredible that mainstream media lets them get by with this, but of course they're on his side. So there you go. It's interesting to see the politics go back and forth. Of course, they're trying to impeach Trump right now, and that's a big deal as well. That's going to weigh into what Trump is doing. But amazingly, Trump is allowing these and really standing for Israel. So I think this is going to bode well for Trump and his administration. I think he's going to come out of this impeachment process and may even be elected in 2020. And in fact, he's not, Trump himself is not slowing down Bible prophecy. I kind of thought he would. I thought it would be a bit of a reprieve. But in fact, he is really pushing it forward with these great announcements, which is really stirring up the whole world, the Arab nations, recognizing Jerusalem as the capital, moving the embassy, and now recognizing that the West Bank settlements are not illegal in international law. And boy, the world hates Trump for this. I think it's going to bode well for Trump, but there's going to be lots of persecution. There's going to be lots of trouble he's going to face, but I think he's going to come out of it and not unscathed. But I don't think these are going to affect him like the mainstream media and the left side and the Democrats who are pushing this. I don't think they're going to get the result that they expect, but there's going to be lots of trouble. And I think it's going to bode well. I think God will bless the administration's decision, at least in this case, for supporting Israel in this case. All right. In response, I don't know if it was directly in response to this, but Iron Dome, there's a bunch of, I had the Rocket Alerts app going, and there were a whole bunch of rockets fired last night. And apparently Iran had been the one to call for these. So Iron Dome intercepted 4 rockets fired from Golan from Syria. 4 rockets from Syria were intercepted by Iron Dome. Residents of the area reported they heard explosions, and the IDF confirmed that Iron Dome had intercepted the rockets. The projectiles were likely fired by Iranian elements in the Damascus area. What did we have after this? Well, there was significant strike and some explosions in Damascus around the airport in Damascus. Syrian media reported that explosions were heard in the international airport of Damascus, and the Russian news agency Sputnik claimed that Israel's Iron Dome anti-air system was activated. So again, you see troubles bubbling up around Damascus. And of course, Isaiah 17 speaks of the destruction of Damascus. So you can see how that would be a key target for Israel to strike if they want to strike Iran, because Iran has some dug-in mercenaries, weapons, base near the airport in Damascus. So this is a big deal, and this is part of the Isaiah 17 prophecy. And you look at the tensions that are growing there, and there's a shelf life here. This is not going to go on for 15 years. And so this, I think, is triggered or is part and parcel of an economic collapse. So as we watch the economy getting worse, I think when the economy finally does go down, it's really going to open the floodgates to all the prophecies that have been kind of waiting in the wings for the right timing. And I believe that's all part of God's plan. Because what we need in the last days is for the world to switch over to a one world government and a one world currency, a mark of the beast system. And the world's not just going to do that for no reason. The world is going to accept that. The countries of the world are going to give up their domestic currencies, the Canadian dollar, the U.S. greenback, etc., because there's going to be starvation, there's going to be famine, there's going to be economic collapse, and they're not going to have a choice. If the world was good, if the economy was good, there would be no need and no interest for the people of the world to move over to a mark of the beast system. And that's why I believe an economic collapse is the trigger point to kick off the rest of Bible prophecy, and I think it's going to all happen very, very quickly. So this is an article about the elections here. Netanyahu Gantz to hold fateful late night meeting. So time is almost up. Tomorrow is time up for Gantz. Netanyahu and Gantz will hold what is seen as a dramatic meeting at 10 p.m. Tuesday night, hours before Gantz's mandate run out. So I guess it's, runs out tomorrow, Wednesday, for Israel. Of course, Israel is ahead of us. Blue and white sources confirm that this will be the first political meeting between the two rivals since October 27th. So they haven't even been talking. And now at the 11th hour, they're talking, or at the 10th hour, rather, in Israel, 10 p.m. Netanyahu and Gantz did meet over security issues, but the Prime Minister's military secretary was present, and political issues were not discussed at those times. So finally, they're going to get together. Netanyahu is interested in a unity government. Gantz is not. I expect nothing to come out of this. And if the 70 shepherds of Israel is true, Netanyahu will still be the caretaker government. So this is pretty fascinating in terms of what's happening, and I think this government will be in place at the time of Isaiah 17 and Ezekiel 38. Likely, that's what I think. I think Netanyahu is somehow going to hold and stay in power. And whether it's third elections, if it was third elections, that would be in March that they would take place, as far as I know, or maybe the Knesset is going to vote directly in a leader, and that's possible as well. And this is all happening according to the specific timeline that God has planned. And so I think it's interesting that the impeachment process is going, and that other situations like the elections in Israel and the peace plan is being held up by these elections. Various things being held up by elections and other forces that were unforeseen, that you couldn't have seen coming. And so you would have thought, well, this has to happen now. But, this thing that I didn't see coming is happening, like these elections, unprecedented, against all odds. And so these things are really pushing the timeline, and that's because God has a specific timeline that he is watching being played out, and the time is not quite right yet. So we're still a couple of months away, but I think when this stuff starts happening, it's going to happen all at once. All these prophecies are going to converge. They're all going to start firing bang, 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 bang within the space of maybe days or weeks, but I don't think it's going to be months at that point. So it may be that we need to be a little bit closer to the year 2021. I don't know exactly, but there's got to be some time there for these wars to take place, for the opinion of the public to be swayed and to be pushed in a specific direction. But I think all these things are coming down very quick. So I speculated before, and I'll speculate again. I think probably we have less than 12 months at this point in time prior to the economic collapse and all the major events that are occurring. Before I was saying, 2 years, 1.5 years. I think I'm down to probably 12 months really before these things start being fulfilled. Unless something unforeseen happens that pushes these off. But all these prophecies have a shelf life. They all have, a time they need to be fulfilled in. Otherwise, you can't see them being stretched out for much longer. And so I think we're that close. So I'll leave it there for today, guys. Thanks for watching this year Bible Prophecy update for November 19th. And we'll see you guys in the next video.